you to the second day of Connect Karo and the fourth plenary session of this remarkable event. This high-level plenary focuses on enabling sustainable, resilient food land systems in India and will be moderated by Dr. Ruchika Singh, Executive Program Director, Food, Land, Water, WRI-India. The Green Revolution in 1960 was a technological response to the challenges of feeding India's rapidly growing population. However, it has led to several unintended consequences of agriculture, including land degradation, deteriorating soil health, and the unsustainable and unequitable use of fertilizers and water, particularly groundwater for irrigation. Today, Indian agriculture faces a host of new challenges such as declining farm size and profitability, emergence of new pests and disease, and heightened risk from climate change, all of which threaten sustainable agricultural production. Additionally, there is biodiversity loss, soil erosion, and river pollution. As land becomes less productive, farmers' income shrinks, contributing to rise in malnutrition. To address these mounting challenges, India urgently needs a transformation in its food and land use systems, aimed at protecting communities, the economy, and the environment. With this context in mind, I would now like to invite the esteemed panelists of this session to kindly take their seats on the stage. Welcome. Our first panelist is Dr. Yogita Rana. Yogita Rana is an accomplished Indian Administrative Service Officer from the 2003 Telangana cadre with a strong background in rural development and healthcare administration. She holds an MBA degree and a postgraduate qualification in rural development. She is presently the Joint Secretary of Integrated Nutrition Management Division in the Department of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare and also the Director General of National Institute of Agriculture Extension Management, MANAGE, Hyderabad. Her numerous accolades includes Prime Minister's Award for Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao 2018, Prime Minister's Award for Excellence in Public Administration 2017, Best Collector's Award 2016, and many more. Our second panelist is Ms. Prittee Chaudhary. Ms. Prittee Chaudhary is currently serving as the Regional Director of Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, Western Region. She has an MBA degree in International Business from IMT Ghaziabad and a BSc from Indore University. She has been recipient of Cascade Award for her contribution to intellectual property rights from FICCI. Our third panelist today is Padma Shri Reema Nanavaty. Reema Nanavaty has been working with SEWA since over 39 years, expanding its membership to over 2.9 million, making it the single largest union of informal sector women workers. Reema Ben facilitated rebuilding lives and livestock of 60,000 earthquake-affected rural women and 40,000 riots-affected members. She oversees 4,813 SAGs, 160 cooperatives, and 15 economic federations. She was honored by Padma Shri for contribution in area of social service. She is currently the member of Advisory Council of Gender of World Bank. The fourth panelist today is Takayuki Hagiwara. Mr. Hagiwara is appointed as the FAO representative in India after serving as the regional program leader at the FAO Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific. Mr. Hagiwara contributed to the preparation and implementation of various projects, including those focused on community-based natural resources management, livelihood development, and farmer field schools. He is a Japanese national and holds a Master's of Science in Forestry from Yale University. Our next panelist is Dr. Chandrashekhar M. Biradar. He is distinguished scientist and green growth leader with over 3 decades of experience in agro-ecosystems, research, development, and outreach. His work spans diverse landscapes across Asia, the Middle East, Eurasia, Africa, and the Americas, emphasizing inclusive systems approach, regenerative agro-ecosystems restoration, agroforestry, green energy, and climate resilience. Dr. Biradar has held leadership positions at various international organizations, including CGIAR centers, US universities, and global institutions. Finally, I would like to invite Dr. Ruchika Singh, Executive Program Director of Food, Land, Water at WRI-India, to moderate the plenary today. Dr. Singh provides overall strategic direction on how to inform India's transition towards sustainable food and land use systems with a focus on strengthening the food systems. Welcome to today's plenary. Over to you, Ruchika.
Thank you, Chaudhary, for opening the session and setting the context of it, and also for introducing all the panelists. We are really honored to have all of you here. And I think you made my job easy, but only two things that I would want to say is, when we are thinking about accelerating India's transition towards sustainable food and land use system, we really need to have a dual strategy where we are thinking about how we are improving income and livelihoods for local communities, but we need to have these strategies with the focus that it also helps in sort of flow of multiple ecosystem services, given some of the challenges that you outlined. This really requires interdisciplinary, inclusive focus, because this is a complex issue, and how do we sort of, think through collaboratively on what the challenges are and how it looks for, small and marginal landholders, becomes critical. The good news, of course, is that there is a lot of potential. For instance, there's potential for agroforestry, which is huge in the Indian context, but how do we sort of think about integrating that with also sustaining India's food and nutritional security needs becomes critical. How do we have a food systems approach where we are thinking not only for the production system, but also, the backward forward linkages, market distribution and consumption issues, food loss and waste issues, which are very, very critical when we are thinking about, food systems approach. And I am very, very honored with the panelists today here, because all of them bring a very diverse perspective on this topic. It's very complex, but we need to think about all of these issues in an integrated manner, so that India's vision for Viksit Bharat and the trajectory that we want to be in, how do we sort of get there? And there's a lot of initiatives that the Government of India is also doing, a lot of civil society partners, how do we move forward with some of that? With that, I would like to first turn to Ms. Yogita Rana, just in terms of your perspectives on what are the key strategies that are needed for Indian agriculture to be more sustainable and resilient, to improve income and jobs and livelihood opportunities for rural population. And initial sort of interventions for about 3 to 4 minutes. We're hoping to have 2 rounds of discussion. Thank
you. And good morning to all of you. Apologies for the slight delay. But I will be very candid to acknowledge that, in fact, I am representing someone else, so the invitation actually was not meant for me. And since it was the last minute, I was really told to join in. Since I came to know that WRI has done a very good work in sustainability, so I readily agreed for an hour session. And in the ministry, I look after, mostly under the umbrella of sustainability, I look after the fertilizer consumption in the country, then the organic and the natural farming and the soil health. So since the entire gamut of the things which WRI is really working into is very close to my division, so I'm quite happy and I'm quite delighted to be with all of you. I have, in the past, I have interacted a lot with TACA on the sustainability. So I will just confine my entire discussion on A, like what is this talk about sustainability, and B, like what are the steps which Government of India, through the division which I head, we are taking forward. So first of all, whenever you talk about geography, you talk about Mother Earth, and many a times when my kids are sitting with me, then they really keep asking, like we have seen globally, there is an increase in the temperature globally by 1 degree. And in fact, 2023 was the hottest year in the entire history of mankind, where the increase of temperature was something close to 1.35. So whenever my child asks, will all the glaciers melt? Will the sea level rise so high? Then I simply tell, don't worry, Nana, it will take some 1,000 or some 20,000 years to happen. And then, the thought comes that even now, the life on this planet has been there for billions of years, and it has, in evolution, it is in front of us. So the very thought that the climate change is something for the future generations to look into is a very, I mean, say, a misconstrued thought itself. A, because it will be our generation only who will be facing the wrath of the nature, as we have seen. And B, it is this time where we actually can do certain initiatives and we can take the corrective measures. Otherwise, the degradation will be so much that in spite of the fact that we do our best, we may not, bring the earth back to its mother nature. If I see the statistics, the global statistics, if we see, the soil is the main, nourishment of the entire life on the mother planet. And if we see what sustains life in that is that the carbon, which you and me and in fact you all are experts, and I'm the only one who may not be an expert because just a year back I was in social welfare and some 2 years back I was in health, but all of you are into sustainability for I'm sure more than a decade or two or whatever. So the point which I'm trying to focus is the carbon content. If we see, let us take example of India only. Like when we started about some 30-40 years back or 45 to 50, it was more than 1, now it is 0.5 on average. And we all as scientists of the soil, we know if any carbon content in the soil is less than 0.5, it means it's a Banjar land. That means the soil, quality of the soil is so poor that it can be called as a Banjar land. When this statistics is glaring at us, then what is our input into it? If we see globally, like China, Brazil, India are few countries where the consumption of the chemical inputs is the highest. So if we take India itself, we started at about 13 kg per hectare fertilizer, and today we are almost 138 kg hectare. That is the kind of input of purely the chemical fertilizer which we put. And on top of that, we do put the pesticide, we put the weedicide, and then what are the ill effects of it? So globally, it has been found that these chemical inputs will never increase the carbon content. Rather, these are always there to decrease the carbon content because once you put in any kind of a chemical, we know the entire soil biome dies. The earthworm, the fungi, the actinomyces, seeds, everything actually die into it. So organically, the carbon enrichment capacity of the soil is not there. But still, we are pumping in in a very unscientific manner where integrated nutritional management should be there. Okay, part chemical, part farmyard. So these are just 4 or 5 things which I will just flag. If you see last year, more than 365 days, 311 days globally had adverse climate. In fact, last year we saw how summer was in Delhi. And not only this, if you see the statistics of health, I'm a MBBS doctor by my academics, so I closely follow the health profiles of the entire world. If you see over the past almost 2 decades, the incidence of the non-communicable diseases of diabetes, of hypertension and cancer are on the increase. Why it is on the increase? Because we actually are not following a safe nutrition, we are not following safe food, and we are not following the practices which leads to less chemical contamination of our food, soil, the surface water or the groundwater. In fact, I still remember when I was very small, I saw a movie called as Akhyonke Jharokhonke, and that was the first time when I came to know that there is some disease called cancer. And now, in every family, you know that there is someone very close to us who must have either been suffering from cancer, recovered or died of cancer. So that is the spate and the wrath of the nature which is coming to. And not only in India, if you see the maize producers of US, so the cancer incidence is very high. If you see the cancer incidence in Punjab, it is very high. So many of us sitting here may think, it is not only because of agriculture, yes, partly true. It is also because of, the other chemicals, the pollution, because of, let us say, industries, because of automobiles, etc. But the point is that whatever is our canvas. So agriculture is my canvas. So I should ensure that my canvas I make it poor. So all, whether we belong to agriculture, social, health, environment or all, we all have our duty to ensure that, the state of this unsustainability, before we cannot take a U-turn, the narrative, and I think so, organizations like WRI and all the people who are, the narrative of organizations who are participating here should be very high. I think so that is the first responsibility. I think so if I can flag this point, that narrative, whether it is from FAO or it is from organizations like WRI or Global Green and whatever, that narrative has to be very high, that look, this is very harmful. Because if we ask, we go to the counter and we ask, you please give me some organic food, and we ask, who has certified this organic food for me? You show me the label. But we never, even when we know that, these colas and these beverages, alcohol or cigarette or, the other chemically exposed food is not good for us, we never ask, okay, can you please tell me what is the content of the chemical into it? So you see the mindset itself, how it is proclaimed towards non-sustainability, towards an unsafe food and a non-nutritive food. See, the day we tell our children, see, I'll tell you, I'll just end because I think so I'm taking more time. Once I was traveling, so the air hostess asked, what would you like to have? So I was just reading a news in which an ex-cola has aspartame and which is cancerous. I just looked at it and I said, no, I would like to have some other drink. Then the fellow on my right, he said, no, I will have, I just quickly showed him, see, this is written. Would you still go ahead and ask for a Coke? He said, yes, I will. So at least let the narrative be on an informed choice and an informed will. Then, okay, if someone really wants to have ill health and all, it is their baby. Now just I will sum up in 2 minutes. Like now, since these are the challenges, the narrative should be very high from all. For that, in fact, Government of India started a very good scheme of soil health card where at least we tell the farmer, look, this is your soil health card, this much it is, like we have our test report, hemoglobin and your urea, your liver function, your this. So we tell the soil, the health of the soil. Now the challenge here perhaps for the organizations like you is, maybe you can ensure where there is a weak link, just to advise the farmer, look, this is the the blood test report of your soil, and these are the amendments which you have to do. Perhaps these organizations will come and ensure an advisory, a demonstration in the way the language they understand that narrative can be done. And then of course, the kind of organic farming or reducing the burden of chemical fertilizer to ensure you put some farmyard manure also so that it increases the carbon content. So maybe these 2-3 things, the narrative from your side, the demonstration from your side, and let people question and ask. I think so that will really go a long way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you said it quite nicely in terms of the messaging on why we need to do that, and a common messaging is critical, not only on production but also on the food safety, etc. And I think we'll come to Mr. Chaudhary in a few minutes on that as well. But also how we think about demonstration sites and pilots which can help in enabling scaling up. I'll turn to Mr. Hagiwara next in terms of 2 questions, interrelated in terms of from a FAO's perspective, what do you think are the 3 strategies that are needed for more circular food systems, and some of the key initiatives that FAO is doing here in India on the aspects of respiration food processing? Would take 3 to 4 minutes maximum to talk about that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation, and you can call me Padma. I'm still under weather. It's been like 2 weeks, so I hope that you will not get affected the changing weather and that you keep healthy. So 3 minutes to cover 2 questions is a big challenge. I will probably concentrate a couple of the themes, and then we will have some sort of Q&A session later stage maybe. Historically, India has been focusing on the food security for long, since the Green Revolution. And then now India has the secured food security. But it's a perspective of the risk management. Food security as a risk management, because you need to feed 1.4 billion people, plus the 800 million people on the food distribution system. So from the risk management perspective, you've been doing a lot of the food security work. So for that, the government is putting a lot of the budget and the effort in the production of rice and wheat. Now, FAO is really focusing on the agri-food system transformation. That's sort of the mantra of FAO in India. We would like to promote an agri-food system, and then we would like to use now from the food system, the food security perspective to nutrition perspective. Why? Because if nutrition security means that people need to take the more variety of food, not just rice and wheat. And you need to have the variety of the food on the table. And then, in order to make your family member healthy, I've been eating a lot of different food, but unfortunately now it's not healthy. But it's very important that the table has a full of different type of different type of food. Then nutrition security means the variety of the activity on the backside of the farmland. So we would like to use a nutrition security as a driver to propel to push forward the agri-food system in India. That's the one important key message that I want to address here. And for the strategy, India, you call it India is one country, but it's not one country. Coming from the Japan, I can consider Japan is one country. But looking at India, 28 states, 8 union territories, so much diversity in India. It's a subcontinent, North Himalaya to the south of the islands, and then Eastern Andaman Sea, and then the west coast. There's so much biodiversity and so much diversity in the entire agro ecosystem. So India itself we should not focus on one or two strategy. And in this way, the government is doing very well that the agriculture area is the sort of the state territory where the states know the best, and states know what is going on in the each side of the tribal area. So I think that each state needs to develop its own strategy in face of the climate change and the natural resource degradation. We know that there is some estimate. I don't say that we know that there is some estimate that the underground water may be depleted some part of the state. But with these challenges and the degradation of natural resources, India, I hope that India has the sort of capacity to deal with the different challenges. Because of the diversity of the society, because of the diversity of the culture, you may have a lot of different solutions for the different challenges. So I hope that India uses its diversity to maintain the healthy system and develop the new strategy for the future of the food security as well as the nutrition security. And yes, okay.
Thank you, Padma, for your initial remarks. And I think the two key takeaways for me were building on what Ms. Rana said. I mean, it's all about choices, but also think about food and nutritional security together and how do we do that. And of course, the degradation issue and how we sort of look at it. I'll come to the choices question first, in a way. I go online, we have Ms. Prittee Chaudhary, who's the Regional Director of FSSAI. From a FSSAI's perspective, what do you think are the key strategies, especially regulatory measures that are needed to reduce the magnitude of food waste we have in India? We had a lot of conversations right now on production system. We need to think about choices, degradation, which I think we'll talk about a bit more, but because, just a bit more thoughts from you on that. Yeah.
So, good morning everyone, and thank you for bearing online. The key thought I will give about the functioning of FSSAI, which is the apex food regulatory body in India and ensuring the food safety. Not only that, it has laid down the raise the standards also for the food product. If we see the working of FSSAI, the base keywords are the safe, healthy and sustainable. So if we say sustainable, which is one of the important themes for our working. And Ruchika, as you know that India is a country with big population, we all cannot eat farm fish directly from farm. There our regulations comes as handy and like an SOP, more than a legal provision for enhancing the shelf life of the product. Be it the safe uses of the additives, preservatives, emulsions, anti-caking agent and various other additives which makes the shelf life intact and product quality enhanced, which can reach to the urban population and can give them a better shelf life. So this is one of the things that FSSAI does. Secondly, we see that there are regulations on the packaging, and through the packaging norms, we will take care of the longer shelf life and the safe uses of the product which can sustain in the longer term. Indirectly, it supports to the waste management, yes, but within data that we all know that with the FAO's 2019 report, there are 17% food waste of the all food produced globally, and some 14% food is lost in the process of storage before it goes to the final consumer. Putting together, some 31% or the 1/3 food is getting lost or wasted every year, whereas at the same time, some 2.8 billion population of world is hungry. Every minute, one child is dying out of hunger every 11 minutes. With such evident data, I think the indirect support is just not enough. We can have regulation, but we need to do a lot more things. And looking at that only, we started the initiatives of safe food and share food, which talks about that wherever surplus food are arising, it can be given away in the safe and standard manner with certain regulatory compliances to the people who are needy. And that's why we are working with the food recovery agencies also, so that we can support their work, and wherever this surplus food is arising, we can support them and we can ensure a safe reach also. Not only this, Ruchika, there are efforts on the repurposing of the used cooking oil. If it can be used for better use in industrial purpose, like soap manufacturing or the biofuel manufacturing. So these are some of the efforts that we are doing. But I would say that all these needs scaling up, and the efforts being taken at one corner of the country may not be enough. Mr. Tata has rightly said that India is such a vast country which can be termed as a subcontinent, and this subcontinent needs scaling up of ability. Whatever efforts we are taking in one place, it needs to replicate at every other place, be it the repurposing of used cooking oil or redistribution of surplus food. These all efforts needs to be scaled up, and for this I think the various stakeholders has to come together. There has to be a revolution kind of thing where the social and behavioral changes can be brought in our population, and they can understand that every grain that we are wasting can feed some other hungry belly. So these are some of my thoughts. I think yes, we can in the second round we can talk more, but we need to really hold ourselves tight for the coming situation.
Thank you, Ms. Chaudhary. I think you outlined it quite well. Again, it's it's about consumer choice as well, which is critical when we are thinking about reducing food waste, but also the regulatory measures that need to be taken. And especially for a country like India, which Tata had also sort of indicated, we are very diverse. How we think about food and nutritional security together becomes very critical. I'll actually turn now to Reema Ben. Just from your perspective, you've heard, because we're talking about food and land use systems, complex issue, you have to think about the food systems in general, production, distribution, market consumption. From your perspective, what do you think are the key strategies, that are needed for having more sustainable, resilient food and value system? Initial remarks maybe for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then we will come to the next one.
Sure. Thank you so much. And what I will speak today is on behalf from the very ground level experience of our 2.9 million members across 18 states of our country. And the first and the foremost I would like to share is that what the farmers grow, they do not eat, and what they eat, they do not grow. And I think that is becoming true for more and more farmers in our country. And this destabilizes the foundation for agriculture. So I think one needs to look at the strategies that the one who grows food suffers starvation and malnutrition. That just cannot be accepted, maybe the small farmer or the farm laborer. So unless the farmers and the farm laborers are self-reliant in terms of food and nutrition, I think our country also cannot be self-reliant. So what we are experiencing is agriculture should not deplete or destroy the natural resources such as water, clean air, flora, fauna, but it should actually nurture the entire ecosystem around it. And the purpose of agriculture therefore should be to grow food, but also preserve, conserve and repair the nature. And that's the strategy of what we want is nature positive agriculture. So that is what the first and the foremost. And let me share not just concepts or ideas, but what has worked from our experience. We have around 2.9 million members, out of which 54% are small and marginal farmers. And what they need, the question is that why does a farmer remain hungry? And therefore we have built a whole agribusiness initiative or a for-profit company where the farmers themselves are the shareholders, the owners and the managers. And I think Rudy provides doorstep marketing to the small farmers as we procure grain, process and package. And so we have our own procurement channels, decentralized processing, and a cadre of saleswomen who go from village to village and do door-to-door marketing. So it ensures fair returns to the farmers, decent and dignified employment opportunities to the young farmers in our country, to the landless agriculture laborers as well, and to the women, and food and nutrition security to the rural households in our country. We have deployed digital technology as well so that the saleswomen, the force of saleswomen who depends, can have better outreach and market access. We have our own digital app through which we do real-time procurement, inventory management and sales monitoring. And as a result of this, it leads to digital and financial inclusion and strengthens the rural economy. And I think it cuts down the distance between the producer and the consumer. So I think the second thing I would like to address is that we need to promote local decentralized supply chains within our country, as Takasan was saying that we are a subcontinent. And this could be a low carbon supply chain as well. It helps us address the issue of climate as well. And now under Rudy we have a subsidiary called Kamla. Thank you. And this is an organic food center of the women that directly brings the food grown or made by the women in their homes to the urban consumers. And it has been working on food processing to ensure that the women have access to income, to regular employment, and people have access to ready-to-eat nutritious food rather than packaged and processed food, as Dr. Yogita was saying. It leads to increased incidences of NCDs in our country. We started from the city of Ahmedabad, where SEWA is headquartered, with one outlet, and with the success, today we have about 9 such Kamla centers in the city. And I think it leads to two-way knowledge sharing. the urban consumers learn more about the food systems and how the rural consumers understand. The last and the most important, I think, in order to strengthen the food systems and also nutrition security is organizing the farmers at the national level as well. And therefore, we are working on organizing the National Farmers Forum, which is a network of more than 25 farmers organizations across the country. This enables to have access to research and development that needs to go down all the way up to the farms. It helps in accessing and bringing technology closer to the farmers, improving biodiversity as well, and most important is equity and equality and recognizing the role of women in agriculture. So, thank you.
Thank you, Reema. I think very, very critical. I think the 3 points that you made on why we are thinking about farmers and the production system, making agriculture a major positive, but also from a food system perspective, how we think about decentralized supply chains, while also thinking about more farmers' common voice at national level. I do have a lot more questions, but I'll come back to that in the next round. I'll pass it now. I think good segue to Dr. Biradar in terms of, you have immense experience working on different food handling issues, but specifically from an agriculture positive perspective, your experience on how agroforestry can help in strengthening the food systems. What are the sort of outcomes that it can help with? So if you can talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Ruchika, and in fact, big thanks to WRI Correct Curve. I think breaking the silos and collective actions is the need of the hour for people, nature, and climate. I think it's pretty much need of the hour. As you said, that the health of the nation is depend on the health of the land, food systems, and the people, right? As you get already told that how much the health crisis is facing, one of the largest health in terms of the diabetic and chronic disease, including the cancer. That's really about half of the populations. One side, that is another side is what we call, this is the half of the Indian world, what we call, this is the very less active, right? So that's really linked to that one. And secondly, 60% of the children, when they have cancer, is caused by the health, the food they eating. I think this is really, we are creating the unhealthy populations, and I think that's linked to the food we eat and land we manage and environment living in. I think this is the critical part that. In order to address this one, of course, we are in the crossroads of the food system transformations, and of course we reached our calorie requirement, what is required about nutrition and health of the people and the planet, right? So I'm just looking into the 5 highs, what we call it as a, we need to restore our biodiversity, what we call high biodiversity, linked to the high carbon sequestrations in the land, in the soil, in the vegetations. If the 2 things to address this, obviously linked to the what we call restoring the water hydrology and the return of the stream sets. If 3 things in sequence, that's where we get the high productivity, reducing the input, especially like a chemical inputs is increasing drastically, and despite of all the measures to taken, but why is because of 60% of land is degraded. Secondly, they are not even responsible for chemical fertilizer because of the loss of the soil organic carbon. And this is one of the critical things we need to address by restoring that what called functional agroecosystems, by bringing the what called integrated system approach, especially system approach where the diverse spread crops, the multifunctional trees, and indigenous livestock. We bring them the combinations that really help us to restore the health of the soil, and that leads to our health systems and overall the resilience of the land. I think this is what is critical. And in this process, we are able to what we call restoring the climate security to help the people. And this is what in the holistic approach, what we call it as economically viable, ecological sustainable landscape. I think that is the key aspect of restoring the resilience in the food systems. Of course, that can be done in the number of ways. One is like what we call a right tree for the right place for the right purpose. And how best we can, as we map the tree deficit landscape of India, nearly about 69% of the landscape is tree deficit. That means we lost massive amount of the trees in the landscape. Just by planting a rows of the tree around the farm once, that can bring about nearly 18% of the green cover. So we have nearly about 256 districts among the 7 districts in the water deficit, and 60% of the degraded agricultural landscape, and also a lot of the land locked because people often buy for investment and offer like kind of a lot of the land is acquired but not using for the right purpose. That about nearly about 23 to 24%. If you put that into the really use for the sustainable prospect, I think you restore the water cycle and food system transformations and creating a lot of the what kind of employment that leads to the economic development of the sustainable landscape. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Biradar. I think the importance of agroforestry, but also just land in general and how it can help in improving income and livelihoods, right? I mean, what kind of strategies? Which brings us to the largest, sort of more second round, but more, we heard a lot about from different perspectives on why food choices, why we shouldn't waste, but also save food. Thinking about nutritional diversity, strategies for India need to be also, cognizant of how big a country we are, and recognizing that, but also decentralized supply chain solutions that become critical. A big question, for all of this is, what we say here at WRI-India is that, there is an opportunity to create more land-based, restoration, and when we say restoration, it's more sort of, broad-based term in terms of different jobs and economic opportunities that can be available through whether it's agroforestry, by just protecting forests, or sustainable agriculture interventions. So how a land-based restoration economy can be spurred. And big question that comes on is on financing of it. How that will happen? What is the innovation that would be critical if we are doing it? I turn to Taka just in from FAO's experience. There's a lot FAO's done on from a forward perspective, looking at how landscape restoration can happen. A big 2 minutes thoughts on the financing opportunities, incentives, and innovations that is also needed for this sector to move, and in the next few years.
Yes, thank you. As I said, India is too big. India is big, and the number of the farmers is huge. And land restoration, for example, the land restoration in Uttarakhand is very different from the land restoration of the Madhya Pradesh, for example. Uttarakhand, we have seen that there are many people leaving from the villages, and the land's being abandoned, and the lantana is infesting, spreading across, and then there is a lot of the wildlife and the human conflict as a result. So land restoration in the one particular area and in the other area is very totally different. So there is the states and then the people should develop their own strategy to restore the land in a very particular site. So there's so many solutions, but you need to have a good eyes to choose what will be the best ways to restore. And land restoration in the Rajasthan, it doesn't apply the land restoration in the Kerala. So we really need to think about what is available, what sort of natural resources available, what sort of people are available, then a technology as well. Then you can choose. So that is what we are trying to do in each state or each vicinity or each town or the villages. We develop its own sort of the strategy, its own sort of intervention package, and a package has to come with the finances. We are working closely with the JEF, and with the JEF money, we are trying to see that the convergence with state government budget and JEF budget and the contribution of the people. So combining those different funds, we are trying to do the restoration and then better agriculture, good agriculture practices. After all, for the climate change and the sustainable agriculture, as Ms. Yogita mentioned, it's all about good agriculture practices. We have to take care of the soil, we have to take care of the water, we have to choose the right variety of the seed, and the way of manage the irrigation system, manage the water consumption. It's all about good agriculture practices. And then if you can concentrate on sort of activity on an agriculture, some of the area can be leave for the restoration or for the production, for example. So in the same area, you can zone. This is typically good for the agriculture, but also this is typically good for the other production activities. And also I'd like to highlight that many of the farmers are not just the farmers. They are also workers outside of the farm. Many of them migrate, and then they got skill from the cities. And then we hope that those people will start doing different initiatives and different enterprises when they come back to the cities, because they don't stay, often the case. Those migratory workers go back, go to the Mumbai or New Delhi or Hyderabad, Bangalore, and then come back. Then they do the agriculture during the Kharif season. So we need to think about what sort of resources is available in terms of this, finance, natural resources, and human resources. And then the finance. Lastly, the government of India provide about 10% of total budget to the agriculture area, including the food distribution system. So India has lots of. Government is doing a lot of the effort to keep maintaining the agriculture on the water. So I think that with sort of the initiative, each one of you think about different strategy for the different target area for the restoration and the better agriculture.
Thank you, Padma. I think innovative financing also sort of exploring debt or the convergence of funding becomes important. I'll turn to Reema friend very quickly and rude request to keep it short. Just because SEWA has a lot of innovative business models that you've developed. What do you think worked? How? From a financing, unlocking the finance perspective, what were the two big things that helped do that?
Thank you so much. And I think when it comes to financing, I would like to first emphasize on the concept. And the concept of Anuban, the concept is what is our impact on agriculture, the way it is seen, nurtured and growing. Financing has to be value-based financing. That is what I would like to say. And what is the impact of agriculture on us? If you only grow cash crops, we will be getting more cash but not nutrition. And also the financing needs to look at what is the impact of farmers on the farm and farm on the farmers. As you know, Dr. Yogita was saying that we grow food, but we don't look at food as medicine. And therefore I think there is that big disconnect. And so I think financing has to be developed in building an economy of nurturance. Within that, we have developed the idea of building agriculture and nurturance. And I think with the growing climate crisis, what is really needed is an agriculture recovery and resilience fund, which has really worked in our case. And I think as far as to build resilience of the small farm holders and their farming, there is an urgent need for this kind of a blended financing facility. So it could be returnable grants, it could be patient capital, it could be interest subvention, or it could be debt and equity as well. To give you a very concrete example, when we had Biradar in Kutch last year, which very severely affected the small farm holders, we immediately, provided returnable grants to small farm holders so that they could stabilize their agriculture by the time the government relief came. And then they were able to repay it back. The same farmers therefore were able to design a parametric heat insurance product when the heat wave struck this year. So I think such a blended financing facility helps in innovating new instruments that would also help build resilience of these small farm holders as well. And now we are piloting a climate insurance. So this is a bundling of heat, rainfall, cyclone and health of the farmers themselves. So I think, designing new and innovative financial products based on the need and affordability of women farmers is what is needed as a blended finance
Thank you, Reema. I think you hit the nail on the spot in terms of more innovative financial instruments, especially blending in how do we do that while thinking about women and inclusion. I'll turn to Ms. Rana. I know you also have to leave soon. But just from the Government of India's perspective in the Agriculture Department, some of the key incentives, the schemes that are already there, which would help in sort of improving, nutritional security, the integrated nutrient management, etc. If you would want to talk about that for a couple of minutes.
See, first of all, you must be aware that India has a very high allotted budget for the subsidy on the input itself. So if you see last year it was 1.95 lakh crore subsidy which was given for the NPK, the urea, the protein part of it, NPK. Then further there are targeted schemes under various divisions in which to link the farmer with the market, you have an e-platform under the e-now. Then to link any kind of adversity, you have PM Fasal Bima Yojana. Then the input which is given for PM Kisan, which is given twice in a year. And talking only about the division which I am there. So let us say now for the organic part of it, there is a DBT linked about, I will not burden you with the finances of it, but just to incentivize the farmer, because initially when the farmer, for ages the farmer is doing something and then you tell the farmer about the new technology, you need to have a shift. So apart from all the subsidies which are linked in form of any kind of a machinery, technology, for your per crop, more drop, the sprinkler, let us say the drip irrigation or any high-tech drone. Now recently the government has come up with drone DD concept where the drones will facilitate you not only for surveillance but also for spraying your nano urea, nano DAP. So in fact, I earlier also said that there is a gamut of thing which the ministry is doing for the farmers. Perhaps where we need to push is the farmer should know. And now India also has come up with an agriculture digital mission in which the entire the schemes will be plugged. It will be a plug-on model. Will be on one side where I as a farmer I'll know the when I have to sow my seed, plant, on the weather advisory, on the e-platform, what is my soil health. The entire farmer registry will be being enabled and it's already operative in almost 16 states where if I'm a farmer, I have a ID number, I have my plot, and I also have what crops I sow into it. So if I need any kind of a finances, which has actually happened in Farrukhabad where pilot was taken, that within few minutes the banker just logs into your ID and then can give you the finance also. So on the whole, there are a lot of initiatives which the government is taking, and we only need to push a lot of these reforms so that the farmers actually come to farmer advisories and trainings.
Thank you, and I think that kind of fits in nicely that Government of India is now thinking of some of these incentives also, PPPs, etc., which can help. And additionally, what's needed, what Reema was talking about, the innovation in terms of blending instruments and how some of the public-private partnerships in that context can come together. I turn to Dr. Biradar. From your perspective, in your current role, you've been thinking more about, again, impact investments and innovation in financing instruments that are needed for this. I request you to keep it very, very brief, not more than a minute, 2 minutes, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think I just lost time also very quickly to keep it limited time. And this is very, very innovative. I think there's huge opportunities in impact investment, especially when it comes to the what farmers can sell only you can value now, but what farmers cannot sell. The payment ecosystem service and restoration in number of level. I think this will opportunity there for diversifying the landscape. That leads to even small the farmers will produce the good food, not the big farmers. Right? So how to restore that ecological balance in what farmers is doing? What the madam mentioned that. So I think this is where real opportunity is there in terms of we talk a lot about the resilience, restorations, and regenerative processes until that link to the revenue generations, right? So that what the different investment landscape that leads to high productivity. We developed a few models like if you can average irrigate the farmers in India, It's about 40 to 50,000 per acre they can make profit, and Rainfed is about less than 10 to 50,000 acres. But there are the sustainable functional agroforestry systems. They are making about 5 to 6 lakh. Even some farmers in around Bangalore, they are making about 8 to 10 lakhs. I think this is where the reducing their input cost, especially, then also the labor and energy, and also the water use efficiency, the increased water use efficiency. And I think this is where huge investment opportunity is there. So what we can again link to that one now, the carbon credit, the green credit, what the government of India has initiated that one. Along with also need to bring to the credit for the water restorations. How much water is percolated because of the nearly 90% water surface now. So that what are the new systems making a sponge, the soil as a sponge, holding on for water management, then the linking to the biodiversity because of all the sustainable systems, they are more high biodiversity. Can value for that one. I think how to quantify that. This is one side. Other side, increasing nutrition sensitive agriculture produces, right? We are only producing mostly the carbon centric rather than the nutrition centric. Shift to that one so that you can reduce the health cost. Nearly about 60% of the cost go for health cost. I think if you address three things together, I think there's a huge opportunity investment. There's what they call economically viable, ecologically sustainable landscape. There's where the economy equal to ecology. There's what the future of the restoration.
Thank you, Dr. Biradar. I think thinking of also, while government, for instance, already there's a lot of incentive schemes, how we think about payment of ecosystem services and incentivize farmers, something additional that can be done. So, I will now turn to Ms. Chaudhary. There's a lot of focus on land, production, agriculture, but food systems is complicated, and that's where the food waste story sort of becomes important. And last 2 minutes to you in terms of what do you think the role of policymakers, civil society, industry is really if we can reduce food waste? And if any focus on innovative financing is needed on those aspects as well.
Sure. Thank you, Ruchika, for asking this. And actually, at this moment, we all have to integrate from the Ministry of Agriculture to MOF to the FSSAI, stakeholders like the industries, food business operators, till the chain of the consumer. Everyone needs to get be in one trade of integration. There we have to think about some macro and the micro strategies, some of the things that we are already doing. As you know that Uttarakhand is one of the states which has established the food storage units near the farms that can be replicated for the whole India. We can think about the biofortification, which is a very new thing for our country, and many of the institutes are working on that. So instead of putting up a lot of fertilizers, how we can enhance the quality of soil. So something which we are already doing, we can replicate, and some of the new things we need to actually add. And especially with the perspective of food waste, I would like to say, Ruchika, that there are a lot of waste happening at the end of retail storage stage and the wholesaler stages, and then we have to think that before this expiry date comes into play, can we put this product into the good use? Can we take them out for repurposing, or can we take them out to people who can actually use them then and there without looking into the financial aspect or the commercial aspect of it? We have to think again that when we are throwing a party through a caterer, how much food is getting waste. We are always concentrating on growing more and more, but can we stop this growing more and more and focus more on the using more and more, optimizing our uses? So this is one thing I would always say to everyone whenever you go out, take whatever you want, but eat whatever you take. So this is the fundamental, I think, even without growing much and living on the same status of total production, we can feed to our population very well. What we need to do is using it in the right way and optimizing our production. And that can happen only through curtailing down the food waste and food losses. So this should be, I think, the theme from my side. I want to convey this message only, and I think the Connectro has been a very good platform. Thank you for bringing all us here, and we can connect actually on these grounds, teaching for a better India, better government. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Chaudhary. Very rightly said that this is complex. We need to think about food loss, food waste, food also interconnected, what infrastructure is needed. And well, as you must have heard today, I mean, when we're thinking about enabling a circular food system, this is complex. We are also looking within that production, how we think about backward forward linkages, what needs to be done on waste, etc. All of that obviously can't be unpacked in a 60-minute spanning fashion. But the good news is, we are doing a much more deeper dive on some of these topics through the day. So we'd love to invite you there, where we can have a longer discussion on some of these aspects. This is just the initial scratching of surface, and I think the panelists here have really sort of outlined some of the key issues that are critical when we need to think of it. I'll pass it to Prittee for a quick sort of closing of, very difficult to do, I presume, with all the points that came.
As we come to the close of this enriching plenary discussion, I have tried my best to bring and summarize all the points together, because we have discussed many topics today and very relevant. So few of the key takeaways from today's discussion, which I found that we need to remember. One is that climate change and degradation of natural capital is not a challenge of the future. This was very rightly pointed at the very beginning of the session. It is an issue of today which needs to be addressed now, not even tomorrow. The sustainable changes are required in all sectors, be it health, agri, transport or industries, etc. Within the agriculture sector, we need to immediately look into issues of pumping chemicals into the production process. But this requires collaborative efforts in all sectors with a more decentralized regional approach. The challenge of natural resource degradation and climate change may vary from state to state or region to region. It may be very different in Meghalaya from what is happening in Rajasthan, which requires state-specific, culture-specific, agroecology-specific strategies. This dichotomous situation today is that we are faced with both situations: food hunger and food loss and waste. At the same time, we have people who are hungry and we are wasting so much of food. This is sad. Our strategy to look at this situation requires engaging with diverse stakeholder groups with customized engagement plans to be able to take to the right message to all groups: small producers, women, youth, processing industry, etc. We need a strategy that works on all levels and which is the message is customized to be understood by the groups at their capacity where they are placed. The few key takeaways are that we need to break the silos and bring in a systems approach. We need to restore biodiversity, reduce chemical input in agriculture, establish recovery and resilience fund in agriculture. Production and utilization plans need to be balanced and avoid food loss and food waste. We need to make ecological institutions, ecological solutions and institutions more economically viable. On behalf of the whole FLW team, I would really like to thank the panelists today and the audience for this engaging session. I would also like to tell all of you that the next session, people need to move to Juniper. Thank you.